Hey Aurorians, it's time for me to teach you how to get more wins in Aurory Blitz mode, so you can start earning some more money. We all know a PvP event is coming to Aurory soon, so I thought to myself, why don't I teach you guys all the secret tips that all the pro players do. So be ready to stop losing every single game you play, and be prepared to start winning more after listening to these 5 tips. So sit back, get a notepad ready, and be prepared to become a pro player. Let's get into it. For my first tip guys, I'm going to tell you something that you need to know. But each nifty kind of falls into one or two classes, either a lead monster or a swap-in monster. And let me explain to you what these are. So for a nifty to be a good lead monster, you need it to be a tank. So high defense, high health, and if it has a shield ability, this is an extra bonus. But these are the nifties you want to bring in at the beginning of the game to basically tank out, put out damage, to hopefully force your opponent to swap out first, because then you can bring in a monster to counter them perfectly. The whole idea of a lead monster is that it needs to be built for sustained battle. So having all these elements tied into one nifty makes it so great as an opening monster. For you guys to get a better understanding of what a lead monster is, just think about Dino or Sabertooth. These two monsters are great openers because they're so hard to kill, because they're either going to hit you with damage or they're going to shield up and defend themselves. But now it's time for me to tell you what a swap-in nifty is. And this is basically any monster that has amazing damage but can't be the focal point of the whole fight. So I'm talking about the Dip Kings, the Bite Bits. These monsters have very low health, but they have great damage, and they can get to their damage move with not a lot of hype. The reason I use these two nifties as an example is because they both have a big damage move as their last move, and they also have a mid hype move as another high damage move. Think about the Thunder Punch and the Deluge, and then you got Riptide, and then you have the Bite Bit big move. I can't remember its name right now. But look at the utility of all this damage they can do. But then again, they can't take any damage coming towards them. So now you kind of have like a rough understanding of what makes a nifty a lead monster or a swap-in monster. I'm going to bring up this graphic that's basically going to show you every single nifty and which role it kind of plays. And as you can see, some nifties can kind of play a lead monster and a swap-in monster. But you really do need to know how to play these monsters to be able to know how to use their powers to their full utility basically. This is why I wanted this to be the first tip to you guys, because a lot of you new players have an issue with this, where you'll start the game with a monster that's not really meant to be a lead monster. And the minute you start playing, like understanding this and start using it in your battles, start using the right monsters in the right times, you're going to start getting yourself some more wins. So for my next tip, it kind of falls in with the previous one, but you need to learn what every single nifty does, because even if you don't use it yourself, you need to plan for what your opponent's going to do in case you come up against it. Because if you lose a game because you had no idea what the nifty was doing, that comes down to you. For example, a lot of nifties can't use their big damage move in the first turn. So in your mind, you can plan for the second turn to be the time for you need to counter, dodge and things like that, because you already know what your opponent's going to do, because you know what the nifty's going to do. Obviously, once you reach this level of prediction and understanding, it'll be a mind battle between you and your opponent on when you're going to use your big move, when you're going to dodge and everything else. And that's when Aurory becomes hyper competitive. I'm going to use Sabertooth as a great example, because this nifty is so versatile, because it can either come at you with big damage move, or it can use its buff and debuff ability to basically make your nifty unusable. The thing is, when you're going into battle with a monster with this much versatility, you need to understand how you're going to play yourself out of it. Because if you have a type disadvantage as well, you need to know how you're going to win the game. Because sometimes you might need to hype the complete first round, then in the second round bring in a monster that has a better type advantage to hopefully OTK your opponent. But that's what I mean. You need to understand all the nifties. What's a lead nifty? What's a swap-in nifty? What's this nifty going to do against me? You need to learn the whole game in and out, so you're prepared for any instance that's going to come up. And the first thing you can do is learn every single nifty, all its plays and all its weaknesses. My next tip's going to be a big one for you budget players, but go out there, grind out standard eggs and start hatching them, because if you get a legendary standard monster, that becomes one of the best swap-in monsters you could ever ask for, because all you need to do to earn in the game is to start with a prime monster. So you can swap in with any standard monster you want after that. So build up your standard collection of monsters, because they're going to be the biggest key for you to get easy wins. That's the thing, prime and standard nifties are equally as powerful as each other. It's just the earning difference. So someone can go out there, spend $1,000 on a legendary nifty, or you can go out there, grind and get a legendary as well. The thing is, sometimes you're losing games just because you ain't got the right nifty for the right occasion. And standard eggs are the great way for you to build up your team without having to overly invest within the game. And if you start to enjoy the nifty, then you can go and buy it. The first few tips I gave you guys were some easy ones, but it's time to give you a super hard one. But it's be unpredictable when you're in the battle. So what I mean is, don't use your big damage move the minute you can do it, because any good player will predict that. And if any monster has a dodge, a counter or reflect, just know when you use your big move in an obvious way, most likely your opponent will either dodge it, counter it or reflect it. With the counters and the reflects, that's doing damage back to you. So you need to be unpredictable and don't be obvious with your big move. So maybe do it in the second round or the third round. Just be unpredictable with it, because any good player looks at the hype of their opponent, because once you know the hype your opponent's got, you can plan ahead and you can probably guess what your opponent's going to do. So if they got, so for example, a big one, Recoin. If Recoin's got 10 hype, no doubt in one of the 3 rounds it's going to do its big move. So what you want to do is predict when they're going to do it. If they're not really a good player, odds are it'll be right at the beginning. So you can plan for that and dodge then. But if they're a good player, it's going to be randomly in between. So in that round, you want to try and plan your dodges, your counters or whatever very well, because if you do, it can win you a game. So when you're using them one-dimensional nifties, I'm talking about the dinos and things like that don't really have any dodges or counters, they're going to be really obvious of what they're doing. So be smart, be unpredictable, because if you're not, it could be costing you games. And this is why all the tips I told you today all work within each other. Because if you know how every nifty is good, how to use every nifty and all its plays, then you can predict when it's going to do its big move, so then you can dodge it. But now it's time to get into the final tip for you guys. So guys, we've had some important tips for you lot, but it's time for the most important one. And that is get one nifty of each type in, because you do not want to go into battle and not have a type advantage in every instance. The thing is, with certain nifties, they can't really have a sustained battle. So you coming in with the right type in can generally just win a game instantly. So let me quickly give you the best nifty for each type in my opinion. First off, we got fire, which is Shiba. And the reason Shiba's overpowered is because he has dual typing. He has an earth move and a fire move. He also has a counter as well. For rock, it would have been Unicar, but he's been nerfed recently. So it's going to be Dino, because Dino is super versatile with the Fatality Strike, been able to have a shield, and generally being a tanky monster all round. For wind, we've got to go with Sabertooth. He's the most versatile monster in the game. He has strategies for every single instance you can get into. For water, it's got to be Dip King, because even though it's a glass cannon, this cannon packs a big punch. For thunder, it's got to be Dragon, because he can go with his electric strategy, which takes a little bit of time, or go with his fire strategy with buff, and scorching bite. And lastly, we got plant, which I feel is probably the weakest typing in all the game. But the best one is Tokane, because its Sunblast ability can OTK certain monsters, and I think Tokane is a little bit underrated. But these were my tips to help you guys get better. In the future, we're going to do more, but these are just the baby steps. The next video is going to be a lot more advanced tips, so get ready for that. Well guys, now you know all the secret tips that the pro players know. So you know what you got to do now? Go out there, start putting these tips into practice so you can start getting some more wins. Because more wins equals more money. And make sure you're all ready for the big PvP event coming soon. But if you're not, no worries, because we'll keep you updated on everything you need to know so you can do well. So go subscribe so you can be ready for all the content that can prepare you for it. But that's it from us for today. So until next time, remember, be a shark in this world, not a whale. And we're going to see you guys next time.